The Machiavellian, this is where things get really interesting and scary, is trust me. That distinction is incredibly important because a codependent person or codependent people naturally are trusting. We want to enmesh with people. We want to see the good in people, which makes it easy for us to enmesh in people. We want to believe that people are sincere. If I assume that I'm going to take care of you, I assume you're going to take care of me. We assume that if someone sounds caring, they are. We assume that if someone sounds wise, that means that they are. And if someone says the right things, then we naturally assume that they mean them. But the Machiavellian personality often understands something that codependent people do not. People can be influenced. They can be persuaded. They can be managed. People can be steered. And rather than forcing control, they often create it indirectly. Now, a narcissist may openly demand attention, may openly demand that you listen to them. A psychopath may openly violate your boundaries and act like, what are you going to do about it? A Machiavellian often studies people first. I've met this personality, they're scary. They learn you. They watch. They gather information. They listen. They seek out your insecurities. They want to hear all about your fears. They want to learn what motivates you, what floats your boat. They want to hear about your wounds. They plan on using that information strategically. Now, I want to be careful here because not everyone high in Machiavellian traits is consciously evil. Some people learned manipulation as a survival strategy. Some grew up in homes where authenticity just wasn't safe. Some people learned that influence was more effective than vulnerability. But regardless of where it comes from, the impact on others, it can be profound, especially for people with abandonment wounds, with these gaping holes in the center of their chests that are aching to be filled and think they need to be filled by someone else. And here's why. Because children raised in dysfunctional homes become emotional detectives. So if this is you, you learn to monitor other people's moods. You learn to anticipate other people's reactions. You learn to read between the lines. You learn to read the room. You learn that to survive, you had to become hyper aware of everyone else's emotional state. And that sensitivity can become a beautiful gift in recovery. But before recovery, it is often a vulnerability because a Machiavellian personality recognizes that sensitivity, that vulnerability, which becomes a liability for you. And they know how to use it against you. They know how to make you feel seen. They know how to make you feel special. They know how to make you feel chosen. They know how to create this emotional dependency. They know how to create confusion in you. They know how to build you up and then take just a little bit away so that you want more. And perhaps most importantly, they know how to create mental confusion and doubt. If you've ever found yourself constantly second-guessing yourself around someone, that is a sign. You have to notice that, well, I'm really confused when I walk away from that person. If you've ever found yourself explaining away behavior that doesn't sit right with you, pay attention, because that's you trying to get out of cognitive dissonance. If you've ever found yourself feeling like you're always trying to figure someone out, like what do they really mean? Pay attention, because that confusion is often a sign. It's information. Now, here's what you have to understand. Healthy relationships, they create clarity. Manipulative relationships create confusion. Now, let's compare all three personality styles. Let's just break it down so it's really simple for you. A narcissist needs validation. They demand it. A psychopath needs stimulation. So playing with your head excites them. A Machiavellian needs advantage. The narcissist manipulates because their ego needs protection. The psychopath manipulates because they don't care who gets hurt. They just don't care. You are just, they don't even have the ability to care about who they hurt. And the Machiavellian manipulates because manipulation is useful. The narcissist becomes emotional, irate, angry. The psychopath is oftentimes very cold and distant and removed. But the Machiavellian becomes strategic. The narcissist fears shame, albeit subconsciously. The psychopath has very little fear. The Machiavellian fears losing control over the game. And here's the part that we really need to hear, those of us who come from homes where abandonment was the thing and emotional neglect was the thing. Many codependent people think that the most dangerous person in the room is the loudest. That's not always true. Sometimes the most dangerous person is the calmest one, the one who never raises their voice, the one who appears reasonable, the one who seems like they're listening to you, the one who always has an explanation, the one who somehow never seems responsible. Even if you feel like they've caused a problem, somehow they slip out of it. You never even associate them with the problem. The person who manages to get ahead, the one who keeps everyone focused on each other while they quietly maintain control of the circus. Those personalities can be extraordinarily difficult for trauma survivors to recognize because they don't fit our stereotype of toxic people. They often on the outside look very competent, very capable, and very successful. They can even seem helpful. They can seem generous. But generosity is generally transactional. They're giving to you so that you trust them, so that they can use your trust strategically. So their helpfulness, again, is strategic. Their kindness is calculated. And this is where living above the veil becomes absolutely essential, because below the veil, you're focused on intention. Above the veil, you're focused on patterns. You can see patterns. Below the veil, you're listening to words. But above the veil, you're observing their behavior. And this takes time to flesh out. Below the veil, you're asking yourself things like, what do they mean? And above the veil, you're asking, what do they consistently do? You're looking for patterns. And that shift can change everything for someone who comes from a dysfunctional home, because Machiavellian personalities often survive on one thing, the assumption that no one is paying attention. But once you begin observing patterns, the illusion starts to crack. You begin noticing how information has been used against you. You begin noticing subtle signs of manipulation. You begin noticing maybe they're trying to separate you from your children or you from your friends. You begin noticing the guilt induction, but it's very subtle. It's not loud with like with a narcissist. You begin noticing the triangulation, very subtle, very sneaky. You begin noticing that what appeared authentic may actually be strategic. Recovery is truly about becoming more conscious. And the goal is not to stop trusting people. The goal is to stop abandoning yourself, and the goal is to start trusting your instincts. The goal is not to assume that everyone is manipulative. The goal is to understand and learn discernment, to trust those little observations, to trust those little hints from your nervous system, to trust that, I don't know what's going on here, but it doesn't feel right. To trust the reality that's showing up in your body, because when you heal abandonment wounds, something miraculous and beautiful begins to happen. You stop needing people to be who you hope they might be. You start listening to the little hints from your body that say, oh, maybe this isn't right. You become willing to see people as they actually are. And from that place, manipulation begins to lose its power. And it's not because that other person disappears and they stop trying to manipulate you. It's because you finally do. You step off the chessboard. You see the game. Once you see the game, you can decide to no longer play the game. The game can no longer control you.